to commission an artwork that was going to go for the main entrance. It needed to be meaningful to Essex, and it was a thank you to the donor families. It was an organ donation committee. I chose the Essex coastline for the symbolism of the kind of river and life, and the idea of the ebb and flow of the tide, giving and receiving. Anyway, scary interview with 15 people on the panel. I got the job, and I proposed to make a 6-metre panel made entirely from donated crockery, which is what I work with, and crockery, sea glass and jewels. I was completely inundated, and it took me about a month to go through all the crockery. Started drawing up on Weddy board. It's sort of all drawn out, and I think I worked on 11 panels, so it was only right at the beginning that I saw the whole lot together until it was completed because of the scale of it. Oh, God, this is so fast. But yeah, it's quite weird seeing it like that. So I spent most of the time working on it in the studio. I had about a week in residence at the hospital, just sort of promoting awareness of organ donation and the project itself. But you can see the piles of crockery are starting to kind of heave up. I kept trying to be organised, but it kept getting fuller and fuller. Crockery is just a whole different ball game to working with tiles. And then you get potters adding things into the mix as well, which changes the design completely. But I commissioned a poem that's based on the book of thank you letters from donor recipients to donor families, and that weaves through the whole of the mosaic. You can just see it starting to kind of form now. I do quite a lot of relief pieces. I've trained in sculpture, so my approach to mosaic is kind of sculptural kind of assemblage, and this is in fiberglass, but you can see a lot of the personal items, the jewellery, bits and pieces coming on. The heron, in case you didn't work it out. This is, the installation. It's not a great photo, but we had to install at night, and it's normally myself and David in the red that do the installation. The guy on the left is the project manager. Lots of serendipity in the project. The guy with the beard who came to assist us was actually a kidney transplant recipient. We seemed to be kind of drawing organ donor recipients. So this is the installation. So it's on Weddy board, screwed to the wall. Joining scrim goes over the top, so it's just like a really easy jigsaw puzzle, just kind of slotting it all together. That was the quick bit. The next bit isn't so quick. I had 2 great big boxes of infill, so it all had to get labelled. It's really complicated. Sticky back plastic, fantastic. So these were basically, as we're kind of going in, we're filling in all the bits and pieces, but because it's crockery, it's all different levels, so most of it has to be done by hand. There's no just putting it on and peeling it off. People are really fundamental to the project. This guy, Dave, amazing. He's very seriously ill. He just kept coming to visit us each evening, just for a few minutes, and so we got him to put a piece in the mosaic, so it became like his little legacy. We just had loads of patients and visitors coming down every night, so it became theirs. Another bad, if it's a really badly lit corridor, they need to sort it out, but this is the unveiling, and most of the people in the background were on the interview panel. The guy behind me, he lost his son. He was murdered, actually, and he, through his passing, saved the lives of 8 people through organ donation. Wow. So this is the second hall, so that end of the thing. You can see this view through the outpatient's window, which is opposite, just off the corridor. So the idea is that you look through the window, and it's like a river going past you. See the little heron there finished. And you can see the poems sort of weaving through. And this is the other part of the wall. There's double doors in between, which you'll see in a bit. You can see the plaque, which kind of explains about the project there. And so the Brent geese at the bottom and the sun are all in relief. But there's just so many personal bits and pieces in there as well. So the grey wing, that's actually a friend's late mother's wedding serving plate. And another friend's mugs, somebody else's pearl necklace. There's just loads and loads of kind of really personal and it's actually quite humbling, some of the things that were brought in and the stories that went along with that. So it's become a very personal thing. I'm slightly obsessed with maker's marks. I get carers helping me print. I love maker's marks. So there in the sail, in the flag, you can see the hospital badge. And the name Oliver came from a mug that was the young man who died. It's his favourite mug, whose father you saw in the previous picture. So it's his boat. This has become known as the NHS Seagull. So the hospital canteen gave me loads of plates, and so the NHS is kind of embedded into the whole mosaic. I also love silver and gold, so if ever I can get crockery with silver and gold pattern on, it's in there. This has got particular meaning for me, this avocet. I was in the studio really, really early one morning because I was supposed to be taking my recently widowed dad out for lunch, and I've got a phone call, he'd collapsed and died, so it's kind of, the whole thing has become a bit of a gift to my parents at the hospital. They both spent a lot of time there. And this hair, this is quite interesting. This is made out of just 2 plates, and I was looking at the maker's mark, turned it over, and the design is actually called mosaic. So it is actually a mosaic hair. Very into that. And there's lots of souvenir crockery of the local areas of Colchester and Harwich, which kind of feature all the way through the mosaic. So that's what you see as you're leaving the hospital. I like the idea of the stars. There's lots of very personal bits in the stars as well as you're going. So you start reading the poem from this side, leading you out to the exit of the hospital. And this is what you see when you arrive at the hospital. And the poem starts, it's basically about the gift of life, and it sort of starts with the word thank you, and it ends with the words thanks are not enough somehow. Because it's like, how can you say thank you? You know, you've lost someone, and our life's been saved through it. So it's, yeah, lovely. Next.
This is Ully Country Park, and it is just on the outskirts of Rotherham, which, as you know, has had terrible press in the last few years. There's a lot of downbeat comments and news reports about Rotherham, but actually it's a smashing place with some fantastic people living there. So the Friends of Ully Country Park got in touch with me and asked me, they wanted to make a new performance area, which is in honour of the lady on the left's husband who died, who did a lot of work in the park. 10 years ago there was a flood where the flood sort of breached the bank of the dam, and thousands of tons of water were about to flood the M1. They had to close it and all this stuff, and everyone was evacuated. So this is my sketch of the first sketch of the piece of work that I wanted to create, which was inspired by the first people who arrived on site for the scene, and their PTSD that they've still got when they were talking to me, which I will now have after this talk. And so there we've got the colour scheme and the coloured-in sketch of the design that I decided to do for Ully. I'm sure it's slowed down now. Right, anyway, so here we have, this is a CAD drawing of some plates which are going to be cut out in stainless steel, because I do a lot of public art in places where it might get damaged and it has to be really like belt and braces, so the isolated places sometimes, so I like to use really tough materials, and I don't want to go back and fix it. So there's the plates that arrived in the studio. It's 4 metres long by 1 metre wide, and yeah, I just started sketching on from the drawing what I'm going to do. But they sent me really shiny steel, so I had to scratch it all before. They just had that in stock and cut it from that, so that's what happened. Sometimes happens. So I wanted to add some stone to it because there's a lot of stone washed up when the bank started to slip away, and it's a Rotherham red, and this is like very similar shale to that. But I did actually use some of the stone from the area as well. So I just basically, like, I had a video, but it's not come up. But anyway, they're napping that on the hammer and hardy, which I know is very naughty. I'm sorry, Angela. Started to stick the bits of stone on the piece in the places where it was trying to represent that bit of the hill being washed away. I use a Ardex epoxy adhesive to work on this material. So now I'm starting to build up, there's 3 strands sort of knitted together. One is the water, which is rushing down, which apparently has incredible sound to it. And there's the hose pipes of the firemen who were there, and there's the Rotherham red. So you see the 3 sort of woven together. So I'm just starting to build up the hose pipes now. And they're just like, that was really fun to do, just like, there were halves, a lot of it is mazurka and Winkleman tiles and some harmony. And they're sort of like, you know, sort of like, it was really fun to do all these like worms, but I was trying to see what I could get away with in terms of gaps on there, so I just sort of grouted quite big areas, which I quite like doing now, so I've started doing that a bit more. And it's got some etched in stainless little bits of text which I've fitted in, which are all the sort of like the facts and the stories to do with the flood in that area. And yeah, there's me looking tired after 16 days solid of long days. And it's important for Rotherham to have this because obviously they've got this bad press, but also they just need to make new stories and not just dwell on the past so much. So although it is a memorial for the flood, it's like really making a statement about you know, something new that's happened in Rotherham really. So that's side-by-side photos from each end. So one end's 50 centimetres and the other end is a metre, and they just sort of like run into each other. The shape of it actually reflects the wall that it's going on, which you'll see in a minute, which is good. So then I did lots of community workshops. There were 14 discs that you can see they've started on the table, and sorry about the boy, he looks very grumpy. He just doesn't like his photo taken. He loved mosaic, he loved breaking stuff, but he just didn't want to be on the picture. Well, he'd say he would, but you know. So 5 schools and 6 community groups worked with me to make their own design of what they wanted to make. It wasn't a big statement, it was just something to represent them on the site, and they're all installed alongside my piece. There's some children from a special school at the top who made these 3 plaques on the right hand side. Had a lovely day with them and went back and did another project with them because they enjoyed it so much, and for their corridor. And at the bottom that's the sailing club people, and we're trying to integrate the friends and the sailing club people together because they don't always get on. But anyway, so there's the piece being installed by myself and Darren Richardson on the ladder, who works for famous artist, makes work for him as well. Not like I'm not famous, but you know. And and my husband Jason at the bottom, just helping me fill in the details. And that's the final piece installed on this very bumpy wall, which is again why it's on stainless steel plate, because there's no way we could have fitted it onto that. And it been safe and what have you, and removable at some point if needed. And then there should be just a few photos of the opening day. So at the top left-hand side, very proud of some of the girls from the secondary school actually sang, and you know, as everyone was arriving, they were like singing pop songs they knew and stuff. They practiced, you know, obviously for performing. The mayor is in the middle, the lady there in the 50s dress. She was brilliant. She was like, yeah, just great, she came. And that's just a big shot of most people who turned up that day, but not everybody who worked on it, obviously. So yeah, I think that might be the last one. Yay!